Well, God bless you one and all. Welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And of course, my name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise, right here in the heart of Brooklyn. And certainly we do want to thank God for the man of God himself, Philip Reed, who is affectionately known as Dr. Phil. And he happens to be the visionary of the Bishop's Corner. And we do want to thank God for Dr. Phil, always doing a tremendous job. God bless you, Doc. We want to thank God for the panel that we do have tonight. We are certainly happy to have with us the delightful, the adorable Dr. Dolores Ben that is with us. Woman of God, certainly it is indeed a pleasure to have you tonight on the Bishop's Corner. And of course, we want to thank God for the man of God himself that is with us from up north. Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston is in the house. Doc, always a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. And of course, we want to thank God for the man of God himself from Brooklyn here, the Apostle Lucien Rojas. Man of God, always a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner, sir. Next, we want to thank God for a young man that's doing a tremendous job in the ministry, Pastor Richard Mackenzie Jr. God bless you, young man. Always indeed a pleasure. We are certainly blessed tonight with the friends that we do have with us that will be weighing in. We want to thank God for this mighty man, Don Skaggs, that's with us tonight. We'll be hearing from him shortly. Don, indeed, sir, it's a pleasure. We want to thank God also for Pastor Jacqueline Alder that is in the house tonight. And certainly, woman of God, we want to thank you for your expertise and be well assured that we'll be squeezing all that knowledge out of you tonight because we want to know what you know. And I'm certainly glad, amen, to have you on tonight, the Bishop's Corner. Well, we have a very, 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 very important topic that we are dealing with, stepping into ownership, going beyond the norm. Let me say that again. Stepping into ownership, going beyond the norm. Before we should go into the questions tonight, we just want to hear from Don Skaggs. Tell us a little about yourself, sir, and what you have been doing, and tell us all that you have accomplished. You have just about 3-4 minutes to do that, Don. It's in your hands. Thank you much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bishop Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity for being here and getting to talk to all of you. Basically, my backstory, I am a bootstrapped inventor, entrepreneur. I bootstrapped a company out of a farmhouse in Eastern Kentucky over 20-some years ago, and in the early 90s. And we made specialty products for the pathology laboratory industry. And we loaded up a 1991 Mercury Tracer wagon and went around from hospital to hospital and established a customer base, and then came back and made some more, and then grew it, moved out of the farmhouse, had a factory, employees, grew it 23 years, and then sold to a company out in Texas called StatLab. And I was kind of done with the pathology world at that point, and I'd found a real passion working with this organization called the Inventors Network Kentucky. And I decided, I had one of those what's next for me moments after I sold my business, and I knew I wanted to help other inventors and other entrepreneurs do what I did, was take an idea and actually turn it into a real product or business. And that's what we do now. We do that with 3 different meetings every month. You can find us at kyinventors.org. And we do meetings, workshops. We have a lot of different programs we're running all the time. I also have a YouTube channel called Empowered Inventing TV. You can just go to YouTube and type in Empowered Inventing. We do a new video every week. We've got a new one releasing tomorrow. And we cover a lot of different topics. We try to help people not spend a lot of money, but actually figure out how to do this and how to do it in the right way.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, before we should ask Pastor Jacqueline Alder to weigh on in, let me just apologize to Pastor Sanchez for not introducing you, sir. Please forgive me. I do apologize. It's just an oversight. Thank you much. Okay, at this time, we'll be asking Pastor Jacqueline Alder at this time to weigh on in and tell us a little about yourself, woman of God. You're muted, Pastor.
And good evening. My name is Pastor Jacqueline Alder. I am the executive pastor for Bishop Neville Wolliston for Living Word Empowerment Ministries. I am also a 19-year school teacher. I started school teaching 19 years ago in Springfield School System. I then decided to go into entrepreneurship and become my own boss. And so I'm a 30-year daycare owner. I'm also an owner of two nonprofit groups. One is My Daughters Can We Talk Inc. and The Man Inside. I'm also a part of SCORE, the nationwide business mentor organization.
Okay, thank you very, very much indeed for weighing in. As I said tonight, our topic is stepping into ownership, going beyond the norm, going beyond the norm. Okay, it was Don that made mention that he has invented a few things. Now, the first question that we want to put to the panel is this: what are the different things we could classify as an invention? What are the different things that we could classify as an invention, Don?
I take an extremely broad view of what an invention is. And I'll tell you a great example of this. We have one of our inventors that belongs to our group is a lady out in Louisville, and she has created a line of children's books, and she does early childhood education. She's an early childhood educator, and her mission is to educate young children on just a lot of basic things like manners and how to get along, and she's done very, very well. She actually created a persona of herself to do this, and now she's got to where she's actually going to start working on a line of products to go along with the books that she's released. I consider her, even before, way before she ever even mentioned coming up with a product, an inventor. If you've got an idea for a product or a business, to me, that's just as legitimate as someone who has come up with an idea for a gadget that they're working on in a garage. It doesn't have to be a physical object all the time. And we see that a lot.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Then let me ask you a question, Don. What makes an invention successful?
Well, you put really three things into an invention. You put time and you put money, but you put this third thing, this intangible thing called wisdom. And there's an old proverb that says wisdom is more valuable than gold. And that makes a whole lot of sense if you think about it, because I'll see a lot of inventors, they get an idea, they wake up one morning and they've got this, and they'll come into our group and say, Don, this is the one, this is it. This is the thing. Don, I just know it. This is going to be it. And they'll be all excited. And the first thing they want to do is rush out. They want to get a patent. They want to go to an attorney. They want to spend $10,000 on a patent. They want to get a prototype made. They want to do all this stuff, but they haven't got the wisdom first. And if you don't have the wisdom first, you'll not know where to spend all that time and all that money. And a lot of times you'll end up spending them in the wrong places. You make all your mistakes early on, or most of your mistakes you'll make early on. And those mistakes, how expensive do you want them to be? Do you want to spend all your resources in the beginning when all the big mistakes and make those mistakes a lot bigger? Or do you want to make them small and test and say, oh, look, this didn't work? I had a guy come into one of our meetings one time, and he said, Don, I've got this new, and it was great. I can't tell you what it is because we were all working under a closed non-disclosure agreement, but I can tell you it was a box. And it did a really, really cool thing, though. It wasn't just a box. But he said, and I've got some people that are going to build this for me, and they're going to build my first prototype, and it's only going to cost me $5,000. And I looked at him and I said, I am begging you, do not spend $5,000 on your first prototype. First thing it's going to do is fail. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, I didn't know it wasn't going to do that. Or you're going to say, I didn't know it was going to do that. And then you're going to have to tear it down and build another one. How many times do you want to spend $5,000 doing that? It was funny because in our workshop, it's a lot of people helping other people. And people were chiming in and say, yeah, you can take $10 right now, go down to Lowe's and build this thing yourself. And that's it. I mean, you have to have that wisdom first, and you get wisdom two different ways. You can, and a lot of people confuse knowledge and wisdom. They'll say, "Oh, well, Don, I have several PhDs, and I know all this stuff." And I've been in a lot of these rooms where I'm clearly not the smartest guy in the room, because these people have a lot of knowledge. But the difference between knowledge and wisdom: knowledge will tell you that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom will give you better sense not to put it in a fruit salad. So you have to kind of learn, okay, how do I want to do this? And you can learn it by making your own mistakes, which sometimes you have to do, or you can learn them from other people that have made mistakes. And we always say people are important. People are very important for inventors and entrepreneurs. And unfortunately, a lot of inventors, a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they're like Tom Hanks in that movie Castaway, except they don't even have a soccer ball to talk to. They're just like they're working on it in their own place, their own space, their own garage, their own attic, their own basement, and they're not talking to anyone else, not getting any input from the outside. People are very, very important. And being around like-minded people like this group here is very important.
And Don, let me just ask you a basic question. What would you say is the most basic and safest way to gather this wisdom?
Safest. You hang around people like this group right here, and like our group at the Inventors Network. You hang around to like-minded people. If you hang around and you just listen to people who are just, they've never done it, but suddenly they're an expert in inventing or entrepreneurship, and they want to tell you exactly, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't. Oh, well, there's no way you can do that. I had somebody one time say, oh, the starting a business, that's just so hard. You have to do all these things. And I remember looking at her and I said, listen, I can take this wallet and this laptop, and before the end of business today, I can start a business. Mm-hmm. You tell me what you want me to build. I'll build it for the end of this day. Before the end of this day, I'll have a business started. And I'll take the contents of my wallet and my laptop. That's all I need. And a lot of people just think it's too hard. But if you listen to those people, those are not the people you want to hang around. The people that want to kind of tear you down or break you down, or say, or maybe, they think you can't do it because they don't believe in themselves that they could do it. You hang around like-minded people, or especially people who have been down that road, people who have acquired that wisdom, you can gain that wisdom from them. So you hang around people that have done it, have been there, and it can make all the difference in the world. We see this at all of our meetings. We see it at all, especially at our workshops, where people are just helping other people with, well, gee, I don't know anything about patenting. Well, I do. Well, I don't know anything about prototyping. Well, this person does, and they all help each other with this information. And that's the people you need to be around.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Okay, let's put the same question to Pastor Alder. Woman of God, what are the different things we could classify as an invention? Pastor Alder, we can't hear you. You're now muted. Can you turn it up a little? Okay, meanwhile, you are fixing that. We're going to go on to Pastor Sanchez. I know that, sir, you do so many things. Yes, you do. And the question I want to put to you is this: what are the different things we could classify as an invention?
Well, thank you for that question, Bishop. One of the things I think that people don't realize is that an actual process can be categorized as an invention, and you can actually get a patent for it, and it's considered a process patent or a utility patent. And I know that Don could give us a lot more details on that. But the reality is, if you come up with a method of formulating something that develops something, then that in itself can be patented and it's considered an invention. Because, I mean, that's how we created things. So most people think an invention is something I create, I put some together, and voila, here it is. Here's something, this is my invention. In some cases, you see, what you can't do, you can't categorize natural things as an invention. They're just discoveries. But the way you discovered it is the invention. And so that process of taking compounds, chemical compounds, and putting them together, that compounding method can be patented and is considered an invention. And I say that because we're right now, all of us are on Zoom, right? We're on a computer type system. And all of these things are processes that where people took that technology. And that's why it's highly protected, because that thing itself is an invention. The internet is an invention. Things like that are inventions. So processes, and we all work in processes. In reality, we're all inventing all the time. We're inventing better ways to do things. And Don will enlighten us further on this, but necessity is the mother of all inventions. That is the key phrase, right, Don? Necessity is the mother of all inventions. And we're all running into necessities all the time. How do I get my groceries home, right? And it's always spilling everywhere. So I come up with the way to actually put my groceries in the car so they don't spill everywhere. I just came up with an invention, right? The thing is, a lot of people come up with inventions and they only use them themselves. They don't put them out there and market for people to actually benefit from them as well, but do it in such a way where you benefit from it. And that's where Don can enlighten us, because he knows he has the wisdom on how to put it out in market so it doesn't get stolen, right? Because things have become a little more complicated since the Obama administration. The whole process of protecting inventions has changed during the Obama administration. So you have to really know you do it right, or you could lose your entire idea.
Well, tonight we are speaking about stepping into ownership, going beyond the norm. Now, we know that you are not just a pastor, Pastor Sanchez, but you also do other things. Can you please enlighten us as to some of the things that you do?
Okay, so my background, just give you a quick synopsis. I'm a military veteran, and so I've been to over 50 countries. All of you know who the president is of the United States. If you ever see the president coming down the steps of Air Force One, and at the bottom of the stairs, you see two people standing there, I used to be one of those guys. So I used to travel all over the world. So whenever you see two people standing there with either the president or vice president or secretary of state with that big old plane that says United States of America, I was one of those guys that traveled all over the world doing anti-hijack security for Air Force One, et cetera. And so my career started off as a law enforcement security specialist, anti-terrorism specialist, and I have worked in the corporate world, managing global operations as a corporate executive with over 500 million a year budgets. And so I have a lot of experience in managing large corporations and winning business and building business. I do have a magazine, defendermagazine.com, which I'm the founder of. And I'm also a senior manager within the federal government. I'm approximately 3 years away from retirement. And I provide a lot of management for some of our law enforcement and security operations for two major federal campuses in Colorado and in Maryland. And I'm also president of Triumph Financial Services, which we help people have a methodology for them to build tax-free wealth so that they can retire with dignity and cover all of their liabilities they may have. But as you mentioned, I'm also a minister, so I do a lot. I'm an author. I've recently published my first book, and I'm writing the second book. And so I do a lot of ministry and mentoring other ministers as well.
So do you eventually find time to rest, Pastor?
I do find time to rest, and sometimes rest finds me, Bishop. Because sometimes I'm going and then rest, boom. Okay. But the one key thing, I love the fact that you brought up rest, is that we are supposed to enter into our rest, right? That's the key, enter into our rest. And so when you learn to live a proper life balance spiritually, then you can spend even less time. And I'm not saying spend less time, but you can spend even less time physically sleeping and still operate more. Remember, Jesus spent the entire night up in prayer. How did he operate in the daytime? Now, that's a whole other topic I won't go into.
Amen. Amen.
Yes, we have to enter into our rest spiritually. And when we do that, it also affects us physically.
Beautiful. Okay, is Pastor Alder able to come on at this time? Is it working? Pastor, are you there? Okay, if not, then what we can do right now is to open it up to the panel. Any questions that you would like to put to Don or to Pastor Sanchez?
This is Dolores. I'd like to know who can open a business and what type of qualifications do they need to do so? And you can talk to me something about finances, because it was so nicely put by Bishop Scott, but you want to know, as a budding entrepreneur, what type of monies do I need? How can I create a budget?
Well, I guess I'll start and I'll let Don go after that. Budget to start a business is very minimal. It depends upon your state. And you could hire someone. There's all these agencies, I won't name them, but there's all these agencies, you see commercials, they help you do it. And even if you use one of them, they're very cheap. You're talking $200, $300, $400 to get everything in place, but you could do it yourself. You can just go to the state corporation commission for your state and then find in there and file the paperwork. And it could be $50, $100, and you file and you become either an LLC or Inc., etc. But before you do that, do all your research first to find out what is best for you for tax purposes, because there's different advantages for that. So it's not very expensive. What you have to find out, you have to find something that people need. And they typically call it a niche, or niche, depending upon your accent. But you need to find something that people need, that you can provide it for them, and that you can provide it in a way that other people can't. And then just work it in such a way where you have very low overhead. That's the key. This is what Don was talking about earlier, is that wisdom of everything you do, you're doing a very low overhead, including how you formulate your company. And you could even start off as a sole proprietor initially, where you're not spending any fees to actually become a corporation. You're technically operating off your own social security number, but you're using a business name.
Thank you.
Very inexpensive.
Let's hear from Don, and then after that, we'll go back to Pastor Alder. I think by that time, everything should be okay. Don, how say you?
Well, I think Pastor Sanchez had it pretty much nailed down. That's exactly pretty much what I was going to say, is that it's not that hard. And, it's funny. A lot of people think that I think they create barriers in their head. They think, well, part of it is they're seeing it. It's a lot of unknowns. And because it's unknowns, they're thinking, oh, I can't do this. This is, there's going to be some unknown here that I won't be able to do. And the thing is, I remember the first time I filed with the state to create the corporation. I looked up online, or no, I didn't look up online. There wasn't on the early 90s. So it really wasn't an online way to do it. You had to like fill out this form and you had to mail it with a check and all. I carried it in. I drove to the Capitol and me, just young, not really knowing. I thought, I'm going to do this. I want to do this right. So I walked into the Capitol, walked into the office that took care of new businesses, and I filed the articles of incorporation, was what we call it here, to start the business. Now, here's a funny thing. When we sold the business, there's the articles of incorporation, and then there's the articles of dilution when you're ending the business. I walked just because it was, 23 years, and I walked those papers through. Now, could I have clicked a button and done it online today? Yeah, but I wanted to actually walk in and do that because of what I did when we first started. But here's the thing. After I did it once, and I see this a lot with people that are intimidated and afraid of the patenting process. After I did it once, I looked back and I thought, well, what's all the fuss about? Why was I so worried? Why was I thinking I couldn't do this?
Yes.
When after you go through it, after you learn how to do it, and just like we were talking about wisdom, and went through the process, now I'm like, I could do this. I could do this 10 more times if I needed to. I know how to do this now. And that's part of the empowerment is once you know something, once you learn it, once you walk through it, you've mastered it. It becomes yours. You own it. And you can do that over and over again. And that is the so cool of a thing about the entrepreneurship process, but the business process is once you learn a skill in that, you can repeat it over and over. Once you find something that works, you can double down on that one. Okay, I know this works, and I can do it again. So yeah, it's super easy. But the other thing, keep everything on a budget. Keep everything. I forget who used it. Somebody used the word budget, and I love that word because you really do need to stay on a budget. You know what your resources are, and stay within those resources, and make the steps as small as possible. You might find you don't need that big whatever to do this. And even if you do, you might want to pivot and find something that you can do with the resources you have first. I always think of, because, we'll have inventors that'll come in and they'll be all excited with this one idea. Here's the funny thing: 3 to 6 months later, they've been around other people and with that are like-minded like them, and they start kind of growing, and that creativity just starts growing. And in 3 to 6 months, they come back to me and they say, Don, I got so many ideas now. I don't know which one to work on first. And I always tell them, you think of all those ideas as a very tall tree with a lot of fruit on it. And you're standing at the base of that tree, and you've got a ladder, and your ladder is just so high. And you get on that ladder and you pick the fruit you can reach first. You go sell that fruit, then you go buy you a bigger ladder and come back and reach the other fruit. And the fruit represents your ideas, and the ladder represents your resources. So pick the fruit you can reach first. And sometimes you have to find that smaller idea, and you get ROI going with that. Plus, it's going to teach you for the bigger project, the big magnum opus thing that you want to do, maybe down the road. It's going to teach you to master that one a lot easier than you would have if you'd gone to that one first.
Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, Pastor Alder, woman of God, please unmute. And how say you?
Can you hear me now, Bishop?
We can hear you. Excellent.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. My computer froze. I had to restart and rejoin.
Okay.
But so I missed a little bit of what you were asking. Are we still asking about the invention?
Yes, for you, yes, of course, please.
Okay. So my thought on inventions is this. I must first say that I'm a youth worker. So I work a lot with young people who starting businesses. That's my niche. That's my passion. My passion is young people. So when I'm working with my young people and they're trying to get a business started and get start their ground roots, what I first tell them is a lot of times young people will see businesses that's thriving, barbershops, hairdressers, and things like that, and everybody wants to open up the same thing. But what I say to them is this: what's going to make yours different than the other one? What's going to make me pass one barbershop and take my son to yours? We must invent something that's going to be creative enough to say you're standing out and yours is different than somebody else's. So then I start working with them to help them create different things. For example, I have a young lady now who is a hairdresser, and we started her business. As we were starting her business, I said to her, there's how many hairdressers are on that block? And when she told me, I said, okay, what do they do? Did you do your homework? Did you research? What do they specialize in? So now that you know what everybody specializes in, let's create something different. So we became creative and we decided that we were going to turn her hairdresser into a cancer survivor wig shop. So now we added a twist to a hairdresser that was different than all the ones on her block. Nobody was servicing in that area cancer patients and making wigs, especially for them on site and right at that given time. People are making wigs all day, but can you leave chemo, walk into a hairdresser and say, I need a wig today? It wasn't happening. So we created that twist, which has her hairdresser thriving. So to me, innovativeness is the part of adding something to set you aside from what the next person has going on.
Oh man, that's so beautiful. Wow, I did not see that. Now, let me open it up to the panel. Questions that you would have for these experts.
Hey, just a question for Don, Bishop. Don, you mentioned three things in terms of inventions. I think it was wisdom, resource, and the idea, I think. Now, what if you have one and two and don't have three or don't have the resource? How would you go about that? And would that be a setback?
Actually, it was time and money.
Time, that's right.
Yep, time and money, and then wisdom. And invariably, a lot of us will have more time than we have money. And, you can use that as actually a good thing. I've seen startups that started out with a ton of money, started out with a whole lot of money, and they crashed and burned. They failed miserably. And the money actually got in the way of them actually becoming successful. I've seen other ones, or ones that recovered from that all of a sudden, oh, now we don't have any money. What are we going to do? And they either had little money to start with, or they finally got to that point, and they actually became successful because the lack of money taught them how to be resourceful and use other resources. And is it Jacqueline? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Had mentioned earlier, the just using that, being inventive on how you do it. A lot of people, they leave their creativity at the door when they come up with their idea. And they don't take that creativity and use it in the process of coming up. Just like the idea of, how am I going to be different from all these other barbers? How am I going to be different from all these other people in this industry? How am I going to stand out? Well, creativity can lead you to that. That's a great story, by the way. I love that story on what they did and how that just didn't make them one of everybody else. It made them unique, and it made them stand out, and it made them successful. So there's, if you have more than the other one, then you just want to leverage the other one. If you've got more time, maybe I don't have as many resources as or as much money to get started as this one other person. Maybe I can knock on as many doors as they can. I can make as many phone calls. I can set up as many emails. I can make as many or more LinkedIn connections than they can. I can figure out how to do all this. And, it's funny sometimes, like I said, the money will get in the way. We competed with large multinational corporations when we first came out with our products. And it's funny, we did better than them because we were more nimble and we knew how to get around these other things. But and wisdom is, again, that's the most valuable thing. And that's the thing that's you've got to have first, because even if you don't have a lot of time and money, you'll spend them in the wrong places. And I know I said this before, but it's so important. You'll spend them in the wrong places if you don't have the wisdom first. And it's so easy if you hang around the right people to get that wisdom, to acquire that wisdom. You have to be open to it. You have to listen to it. You can't be closed-minded about it. You have to say, oh, okay, well, maybe going about it the way I was envisioning it wasn't the right way.
Amen. Questions? If not, let me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No problem. Good night, everybody. To Bishop Scott and to the panel. Everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right. God bless you. All right. So back to the three things that you mentioned: time, money, and wisdom. I have to harp on money again. I know that we spoke. I know Dr. Ben spoke on the necessity of money with starting up a business, and Pastor Sanchez eloquently answered that question. But in terms of inventing something, say you have an idea and you want to actually, besides putting pen to paper, you want to actually, come up with the actual product, but you don't have the money, you don't have the resources to get it. Is there a way to obtain loans? Who do you present this idea to in terms of getting the money together to do something of that magnitude?
And as a bootstrapper, my go-to point is always, do what you can with what you have. But if you do need help, and again, that comes out to other people. Now, I can tell you a great story. There's one of our members, one of our inventors, came up with a new technology to help people with Parkinson's disease. And he was trying to, get the resources. There was a lot of moving parts to this, a lot of pieces to this. There was a lot of software to it. And he was able to get a grant through the SBIR program. It's a Small Business Innovation Research Program. And so for those of you that aren't familiar with that, the government has all these different agencies. You've got the Department of Defense, you've got National Institutes of Health, you've got National Science Foundation, which was the one our guy was using. You've got Department of Agriculture. You've got all these different agencies, and they're all given a pot of money every year. And they say, send us proposals, and if we like your proposal, if your proposal fits our criteria, depending on the agency, some of them are different about that, we will, and we like your proposal, yes, we will, we'll grant you the money to do it. And like with National Science Foundation, SBIR right now, there's usually a phase 1 and a phase 2. So phase 1 is like the early stage, it's feasibility, it's all that. It's $250,000. Now, that being said, are those easy to get? No, they're not. You have to really kind of burrow down and do a lot of homework and put a lot of pen to paper, and you have to create the plan and show what's innovative. You've got to really impress their socks off. You really do. You've got to form a team. Okay, if you're going to pull this off, if we're going to give you this much money, how are you going to pull this off? Well, I got a team. Are you a PhD, Mr. Skaggs? No, I'm not, but I can rent one. I know how to find them. So I again, it goes back to that. I'm being resourceful, I'm being creative, and I'm applying this creativity to this. And he's won 2 phase 1 grants with NSF. And he's on his way now. So there are ways to do that. And again, it's getting with other people to find. If he hadn't joined our group and got with other people, he would have never known about this SBIR program. So that's where I'm always kind of aiming back down to that one point, but that one point is so critical, because if you don't get to that one point, it won't lead you to the other points. But there's grants to be had, and I like grants over loans. I like grants over venture capital, because it is what they call undiluted funding. You are not paying it back, and they don't own part of you. And as a bootstrapped entrepreneur, I like owning all of it when you sell it. I don't like owning just a little piece if I don't have to. So that's that. There's a lot of opportunities like that too. That's just one. But again, it's you might not have the resources, but you can do the research and find these things. And a lot of it's just getting around the right kinds of people. I know I keep saying that. I probably sound like a broken record at this point.
That's important. The wisdom, yes. Questions?
Well, I certainly enjoy enjoying the program immensely tonight, and just enjoying the subject. And I like the word that I've been hearing, creativity and being proactive and stuff like that, because one of the things is that back to the scriptures where it says that God has given us the power to get wealth, or God has given us the capacity or the ability to get things. And so when I just got saved in early ministries, I taught you pray for things, and I'm not denying the power of praying, and everything you want, God is somehow going to drop it in your lap. But I understand He gave us the resource, yes. And sometimes we can have the resources and we're not resourceful.
Yes.
And so being creative. One guy came from South Africa, his name Elon Musk, and he thought about the electric car, EV, and they laughed at him. They say combustion engine ain't going nowhere. Well, it was clean and it was creative. And so today now he has passed Jeff Bezos as the richest man on the planet. With starting up Tesla and SpaceX. So and from what I heard about him, he seldom takes no for an answer. So I believe determination is a big factor. And as Don says, we fail our way into success, and a mistake is not a mistake until we learn from it. So I like the subject tonight, and I believe in like Joel 3:10 says it says, beat your plowshares in the sword and your pruning hook into spears, let the weak say I'm strong. That's creativity. That's starting with where you are, what you have, and doing the best you can. So sometimes we complain and say we don't have it. But I'm being creative, because they say idea is created twice. As a man thinketh, so is he. First in your mind and then the manifestation. So this program tonight, I'm not an inventor, but I just love this subject because my thing is about empowerment. That's my niche. That's my ministry, to empower. As a matter of fact, Jesus, before he left the planet Earth, he says, all power is given unto me. I like the word power, empowerment. It's not just some weak bunch of religious rules and regulation. I think Christianity is way more powerful than that. A bunch of don't do's. It's more creative, it's more powerful. And when we could find a problem and solve it, I tell you, the rest is history. Most of the interventions would have solved problems, and that's where it's at. So I'm enjoying the thing tonight. And Jose, when I heard your resume, I feel bad. I feel like I wasn't doing nothing. I was impressed. God bless you.
Okay, let me just put this question to Don, Jose, and Jacqueline. Okay, how important is it to improve on that which you have established? How important is it? Because as I was saying to Don before we really started the program, that when I was a kid, you never heard of cars with air conditioning. Now our cars has got more than that. And so forth. Eventually you'll have cars. Well, you have cars now driving themselves. And I'm not getting into that because, listen, I'm cheap. So, how important is it to improve on these things?
Yeah, it's very important. It is, if you're sitting still, the world's going to pass you by. And I'll tell you a great story with this. I had, and you know, just like all these other inventors that I mentioned, that, you know, after a while they have so many inventions, they don't know which one to work on. Well, we all have more, especially as seasoned inventors. You'll end up with a lot more ideas than you could ever work on in your lifetime. You really do. And what I do and what I tell inventors to do is when you get an idea, write it down, put it. I've got a thing I call the idea bin, and I just put all my ideas in it. And every once in a while, I'll review and look through and see, okay, is this one worth working on? And there was one I remember in particular that I thought was just the coolest idea. I almost pursued it. And this was, again, it's going to tell them how old I am, but this was like, you know, back in the early 90s. And when this was applicable, and it was a way to take down directions really, really quickly and get you to your destination. Well, then we had the advent. I never did anything with it, and guess what happened? Time and technology passed me by, and that's okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. But if we don't improve things, if we don't change things, even if you've got a good product and it's going and it's humming and you've got a good market and you think that's going to go on forever, there's a lot of, well, I'll tell you another great story with that. Eastman Kodak. A lot of people don't know Eastman Kodak was the first company to invent digital photography. And they shelved it because they said, well, this will cut into our film sales business. So for those of you who don't remember, you know, back in the day, you used to have to put something in the back of a camera called film, and you took pictures, and you took and got that film developed, and then you got your pictures, and they were real pictures. They were like, you know, paper pictures, and so back in the day, before the first inventor of the digital digital camera was Eastman Kodak, and they said, no, we're not going to do it. This will hurt our other business. Guess what? Other companies came up with the same thing, better ways to do it, more innovative ways to use a digital camera. And can you buy film now? Maybe somewhere, I don't know. I guess they still sell film cameras, but the majority of pictures are taken with your phone. So if you sit still, the world, technology, and your competitor will pass you by.
Oh, yeah. Pastor Sanchez, how say you, sir? How important is it to improve on that which you have?
Well, Bishop, just like my hair, change is inevitable. You know, so it's inevitable, and that's just the way things are, period. And so if we're not constantly looking for the next evolvement, then we don't realize the world we're in, because that's part of our whole process in life, is we are learning and developing, becoming more Christ-like. That is the ultimate objective, to become to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, which means we have to change. So we ourselves have to change. Everything about us has to change. Our environment has to change. Everything we do has to change. So even though, Bishop, you don't like vehicles that drive themselves, that may be the reality. Sometime in the future, you're not going to have the steering wheel. So change is coming.
Yes.
Are you going to be prepared for the change? And are you going to be a part of the change, or is change going to change you against your own desire and will? The key is you have to realize it's changing, and then you have to ask for wisdom. So he who lacks wisdom, let him ask, and he will receive it, right? So this goes back to a couple of things that Apostle Rojas was saying, and Pastor McKenzie, and even Dr. Dolores earlier. You ask for wisdom, you come up with ideas. How do I get money? The wisdom will come to you, because he said he will give it to you abundantly. And that's why you meet people like here on the panel, so forth. Like there's a person I know who is a multi-billionaire, and he was a engineer within the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And what he did is he got a part-time job because he had a great idea for a real estate type business, construction business. He got a part-time job. He saved every single dollar from his part-time job and bought his first real estate property. and he kept implementing this idea, but he found the funds because he couldn't get it anywhere else. Just like Walt Disney, right? Walt could not build Disneyland because he came with the idea to the board of directors of Disneyland, and they said, we don't have the money for it. So he was trying to find, where can I get the money? So what did he do? He went to his life insurance policy, and he took a loan out of his life insurance policy. And that's how he funded to create Disneyland. You find ways, ideas will come to you. And believe it or not, ideas are divine. And Don will testify to this. I know he'll testify. You know, I met him today. The reality is, when you get an idea, if you don't act upon it, you're going to lose it, because that idea is divine. It was deposited supernaturally, and you weren't the only one to receive it. It's all about who would take action on it, because for such a time as this, that was released into the world. Who will take that idea and take action upon it? And that's part of what you asked earlier, Dolores. Action, action, action is the most important thing of anything to do. People say that he who plans, who fails to plan, plans to fail. That is true. But he who doesn't stop planning already failed. Because at some point, you need to just put the pencil on paper down and do something, because every successful person failed. And they failed a lot of times. They planned, but they always took action. So that's what I would say, Bishop.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. Okay, let me put that same question to Jacqueline. Jacqueline, how say you? How important is it for us to improve on that which we have?
Bishop, it's very important, because if you constantly going in the same direction, no matter what you're doing, and you are not one time stopping to see, because everything's changing, everything constant, the world change, we change, the people change that you're servicing, their desires, their wants, their needs change. So if you're not changing according to the people you're serving, then you'll be left in the shuffle, because people go what satisfies them. So in other words, I own a daycare center. If I just go open every day and I say, drop your kids off, I'm going to babysit them, we're going to let them watch TV, people get tired of that, because now they're going to a function and somebody else's kid could read, and all their kid is doing is sitting watching, looking for a device to use. I have to constantly be making improvements. So now when I realize one year I'll have technology, 1 year maybe I'll turn around and we'll do something else. Like for me, my thing is I have a music teacher that comes in once a week. There's nobody in my area that has a music teacher. So guess what? I have 7 families last week who left the daycare down the street and they came to my daycare because they found out that I have a music teacher and they want their kids to learn music. So, I have a Spanish teacher that comes in. Guess what? I have families now calling me like crazy, asking me, you have any slots available? Because I would love for my child to learn a second language. If I don't do those things, then it doesn't set me aside from everybody else in my industry. So I have never, thank God, I've been open 30 years and I have never had to go look for people. I have a waiting list, and I'm considered a small center with constant waiting lists. Why? Because I'm constantly making changes. I'm constantly doing things to improve what I have. My money won't keep going if I don't keep changing. I will stop somewhere. You get frozen. I have a couple of friends that's out of business today that started the same business I started because they didn't see the importance of improvements. I started this way. I'm going to stay this way. The world doesn't stay the same. We're constantly changing. People are constantly changing. Needs are changing. I helped a young lady start a business. She does an empowerment exercise business. And you know what I told her? That works for now. But you're going to have to tweak it because people are going to get tired of just coming to you, getting a meal plan, a workout plan, and saying, okay. So guess what? We researched some things and we said, okay, there is not a workout center that has an autism room. So let's develop an autism room with everything in it. So now we have the children that can come in and we can now serve service the children that needs to work out and get rid of the energy, just like the parent need. So we're doing two things in one time. So to me, you constantly have to be ready to improve in order to keep your cash flow flowing, or you'll find yourself out of business. I'm not rich, I'm not a millionaire, but I'm doing well. God has blessed me, and it's because I constantly change. Nobody never knows where to find me at.
Wow. Now, Jacqueline, let me say this. Now I see why the devil was giving you a hard time for you not to speak, because that's a tremendous amount of wisdom that you have portrayed there, young lady. No wonder Bishop Wolliston, I mean, he looks so proud this evening.
That's my
Amen. God
bishop.
bless you. I know it's your bishop. Wow. Pastor Alder, do you ever come to Brooklyn?
I don't. My daughter's moved to Brooklyn, though.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me. Okay. Do we have any questions before we get on to question number 2? We only have 30 minutes left.
Well, real
question,
quick, Bishop, that's,
yes.
I mean, you can make the contrast or the connection spiritually. I mean, this is, I'm sure you have pastors that are on the line. They may not be business people or leaders, department heads. And I thought this was real interesting as you talk about a change and tweaking things. And what are you, even your church, our church, your church, my church, what are we doing differently than the church down the block, down the street? And difference can make a difference. Difference can be the key. For instance, we just put a cafe into our building, into our church. I'm not a coffee drinker. I really don't care for it. But you know what? Maybe I can grab a beef patty before church, after church, what have you. The idea really is, what are you doing different than someone else that they want to come to your daycare center, your exercise or your gym class or nutrition? And I think that's powerful right there. We all will preach the gospel. You know, it's the method. We always talk about the message never changing, but the method, because like Pastor Jackie say, we're servicing different people. The people that we're servicing, Bishop, you know, it's not my mama's people anymore. Or you know, so this is really powerful. We can take a whole lot from this as ministers, as pastors. What are we doing different?
Amen. That is so true. Okay, that brings us to question number 2. It reads like this. Now, I'll put this first of all to Donna. I have an idea to start a business with a unique, innovative product. How do I start on the business end in getting the business established and on the product end in getting it to the market? Donna.
A lot of it'll run hand in hand, but a lot of it's very different. But you really do have to, you know, in my area, I'll see, you know, inventors, entrepreneurs, and they kind of think they're on different tracks. If I wanted to invent something new, I'd like to get a new word in the dictionary, and I would call it entree inventor. That's where you're a little bit country, you're a little bit rock and roll. You have both of those elements, and if you just want to be creative and come up with a product, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, and you want to license that product, you want to have your own business, you want to license it. What a lot of people don't understand is when they want to license that product, they are doing business licensing the product to someone else. So you're still transacting business. You have to understand that part. And to the entrepreneurs a lot of times, well, I don't want to get bogged down in this product stuff. Well, you have to understand it enough to be able to get the right people in your team that are doing it, or the networked outsourced partners that are doing it. But you understand it enough to where you are communicating. If you come up with a product, and that product is going to sell, and you've got some people that are, you know, hey, these guys, they're good at marketing, they're going to partner with me, they're going to get this thing to market, they're already in that market, they really love the product. If you don't communicate well, if you don't understand their world well enough to communicate well with them, something bad's going to happen. So somebody's going to miscommunicate something. Communication is the key. But if you don't know the same language, you're not going to communicate very well at all. And so I would say, yeah, they are very, very different tracks. So you're establishing the business. And there's, again, we kind of touched on a lot of these, I know, but, there's the, the formation of the business and all that. And that can be easily done. Again, it's not this big, scary, glob of unknowns that you can't master. You can figure that out and you can do that. But then the business part of it is, you're managing it. So I know we talk about three elements in an invention. Well, there's kind of three people in a business, and you've got the entrepreneur, and that's the one wanting to run out 10 steps ahead of everybody else and taking those risks, and usually that's the good salesperson. And you've got the manager is the one who wants to put everything in the right boxes and keep everything organized and have the business running smoothly in the office. And then you've got the technician. That's the one actually working on the products and making stuff. But when you're a small business, you're all three of those people sometimes at the same time. And you have to have a balance of those three elements yourself, especially if you're the one doing everything. You're usually wearing all the hats in the beginning. And but launching a product, that's where you become more of the technician. I'm doing product development, I'm doing research, and then you've got the business part where it's okay. Are we going to be able to pay our bills if we spend this much money? Do we have a budget? Did we set one up? Or if you're going to be the entrepreneur, you're the one out there selling the product. And that's almost a little both, although it's a little more business, I think, where you're out there and you're connecting with potential customers. And if you're working with other people, some people maybe have a little more tendency to that than the others, and that's okay, that's good. But again, you have to be able to communicate. If you're living in different worlds, one person's more the technician, one person's more the entrepreneur, then you guys have to communicate and you have to get along really, really well. And you have to, this is another thing, and it's a little out of left field, but really it's not. When you're working with other people in a business or you have partners in a business, you sit down before you start anything else at all, and you decide one thing. You both agree on one thing, and that is, how are we going to resolve issues when a big issue comes up, and I'm just completely believe that we need to do it this way, and the other one says, no, I believe we need to do it the other way. There's got to be a tiebreaker. There's got to be something you have already both agreed on ahead of time to say, okay, when this big nasty thing comes up, and it's in the beginning, it's honeymoon phase stuff. Nobody's going to think that. I've sat down in meetings with people wanting to form a business, and it was all flowers and rainbows. Everybody was just wanting to get along and everything. But I was thinking, no, I know where this story ends. If you all don't decide first how you're going to resolve issues, then you're going to have a problem down the road. So if you've got a person that's doing more of the product part, person that's doing more of the business part, but you really can't totally separate those things. They have to communicate, they have to get along, but they do have different tracks.
Okay, got you. Okay, let's put that same question to Pastor Sanchez.
Well, Bishop, you have to have a business plan. That's key. Everything must revolve around a business plan. You can't even go to a bank and get financing if you don't have an effective business plan. And this is part of what Don was saying earlier. In the previous life, I used to have a contract for National Science Foundation. We're the ones that actually gave the grants out for stuff like that. And those business plans had to be highly tuned. And so if you have an effective business plan, now for everyone out there who's watching, there's just a real basic thing you have to know. It's called SWOT. 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 And anything you do, especially in a business venture, really ministry, anything you do, what you have to look at is, what are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And so I have to analyze that. If I have something that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to find what are my strengths. And then I need to find out what are my weaknesses too, because I have to be able to counteract for that. If I'm lacking a strength that is needed for what I'm trying to do, then I need to get that strength somewhere. There's books like, for example, Strength Finders 2.0. It teaches you how to identify what your personal strengths are. When you start learning other people's strengths, that you know how to team yourself with people who have the strengths you need so that you can have all the strengths. And you have to identify what your weaknesses are as well as what are the weaknesses of your competitors. And this is beautiful, according to what Pastor Jacqueline was saying earlier. That's what she's been teaching her colleagues, how to identify what's missing out there in the marketplace. And when I find a weakness in the marketplace, then I make that part of my strength. So that becomes an opportunity. And so I now take that opportunity, but understanding every opportunity means there's an opportunity cost, meaning by doing one thing, I can't do another. So I have to realize if I do this opportunity, that means I can't do that. And what's the cost of not doing that since I'm doing this? And so then I look at the threats. What could go wrong? What are the things that could happen in this that I'm doing so that I plan for it? And what I'm doing is I mitigate the risk to the maximum extent possible. And what I can't mitigate, I'm ready for it in case if it does happen, at least I have a plan how to deal with it. So SWOT analysis, have a business plan and a SWOT analysis before I do anything. And once I have that done, take action, go do something, and then learn from my mistakes, reanalyze, write up my SWOT again, write up my business plan based upon what I've now learned, and then take action again. And that's the change that you were talking about earlier, because change is inevitable.
Thank you very much. Well said, man of God. Well said indeed. Okay, let's hear from our Pastor Alder, because I know that you've established business, woman of God, and so forth. So let me hear your expertise on this.
Bishop, I take this pretty much the same approach as the others, but I also try to make sure that I have my people figure out the problem that's going to be solved. And then after we figure out the problem that's going to be solved, we look into the market. After we look into the market that we're going after, we find our support team, because you must build a support team when you are trying to do something, because you'll get weary and well doing and you'll get disappointed here and there, but your support team will keep you pushing. I have a phenomenal team that when I get tired, they tell me why I can't be tired. When I think I'm turning the corner to something else, they tell me why I must stay focused and stay grounded. And my number one support team is with my bishop. You know, my bishop keeps me grounded. I don't care. I'll say, Bishop, I'm tired. You can't be tired. Bishop, I don't think I need this. Pastor Jane, what are you doing? You know? And he doesn't play with me. You got to have somebody in that support system that's not going to care about your not seeing what you ought to see right then and there. They have to see beyond what you're seeing at that moment, so that you cannot fail. Then Bishop won't allow me to fail. I don't care what area that I'm feeling like I'm lacking and that I'm tired in. He'll give me a reason why I'm not tired. And I'm like, okay, Bishop, okay. And so that's the thing. I tell him, build your support system. Create a financial plan is my next thing. Pastor McKenzie, I was listening to you and I was listening to the financial, and I'm not jumping in on everybody's thing that they're talking about, but I was listening to you. And when I was thinking about your what you were saying, I also listened to Don. I was listening to you about grants. I also, Jose, you were just talking, Mr. Sanchez, you was just talking, Pastor Sanchez, forgive me. You were just talking about grants. Well, I worked for Walmart Corporation for 10 years and I did their grants, fundraisers, and donations also. So what I, Pastor McKenzie, have a tendency to do right now is I fall back on the grant scene. So I teach my people how to create a pathway throughout their businesses they're trying to do that will get them eligible to apply for some grant money. So I am that gruel for create a nonprofit, for-profit, not nonprofit. I'm that gruel for that. I'll help you create a nonprofit so that you can get yourself to where you can access some of the grant money. I have a phenomenal grant writer. Everybody, I tell you, you have to have a support team. I got a team that's crazy, and it keeps me grounded. So therefore, I tell my people to create their financial model plan, and then start with your phases. Start with your phases of what you want to do. Every Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be built in a day. You have to work in phases. So if you break down phases, then you have it. I just taught a youth business conference, and I know you all are pastors and you saved and sanctified, but my motto to them was, you have to learn to rise, grind, and hustle for a period of time before you can sit back and say, this is not working, that is not working. So often we're looking at failing. You're failing because we are not teaching each other and people how to strategize themselves and stay focused. Focus is the number one thing. You'll get weak. You will get wearied, but no matter how weary you get, keep a team of somebody that'll keep you focused and keep you in there. And that money is out there. There's plenty of money out there. Plenty of money, but you have to realign yourself and set yourself up to get some of it. And that's what I'm doing with my team right now. And for the record, I felt like I needed to do something different also. So I just put 2 trucks on the road. And guess what? I am constantly looking at those. My drivers are calling me throughout the night. I've been sitting here 4 hours. I wake up and sit up because it's about my money. So we have to teach people that when you start something new, you got to work with it, rock with it, roll with it. If that phone call at 1 a.m. is about that money, be about your money, be about your success. Get up and do it. Focus, watch it, count it, and then appreciate it and count your blessings at the end.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Listen,
Sorry.
Indeed. No apologies, woman of God. I see that Bishop Neville Wolliston taught you well. God bless you, God. God bless you indeed. Let me ask a quick question and so forth. I've heard about the different steps, that one's got to take, find a business idea, write a business plan, secure financing, choose a business structure, and then state ID, obtain business license and permits and all those things. Let me ask you a general question. In starting a business, I have a job that I'm doing now, a job that I'm doing now. I'm starting a business. Should I quit my job? Should I quit my job?
Unequivocally, no. It's like the old saying, don't quit your day job, but that doesn't mean, you have to be responsible for yourself and your family. And if you say, I'm going to quit this job and I'm just going to go out here and with this idea and just start working on it full time, that's not a good plan, because you're running off a cliff and there's no ground underneath you. Gravity's going to take over. You have to really, and I believe Apostle Rojas has said this earlier, and he used a similar word that I use a lot, which is diligence. We're always telling our inventors and entrepreneurs that diligence is vitally important for their success. And we teach our inventors and entrepreneurs, we tell them, we say, you make an appointment with your product or your business. You treat it like it's an appointment with a doctor or an attorney. You say, okay, on Wednesday at 6 p.m., I am putting down the remote. I am getting up off the couch and I'm working on my idea. I'm working on my product. I am working on my business. And you see, it's easy to think that way, though, and have that diligence when you're in a meeting like this, because everybody's excited, everybody's hearing good things. You're kind of pumping yourself up, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. People are important, like we were talking before. But I'm talking about that cold day in February, or that hot day in July. And yes, you come home from that job that you really don't like because you want to be doing this other thing, and you're just not feeling it. And it's just, and you say, well, I know it's Wednesday. I know I made a promise, but I'm just going to sit this down right here. And I want to get back to it. And you make promises to yourself. I'm going to get back to this. And then the next week goes by and something else happens. And sooner or later, you let things and the minutia of life get in the way of you actually moving forward with your idea for a product or a business. And before you know it, months will wheel by. I have seen people do this. Months will wheel by. And it'll be Thanksgiving. And if you're anything like me, you're reared back in the recliner full of turkey. And my wife comes up and she says those magical little words, honey, would you? And in my case, it was, you go out to and get the Christmas decorations out of the garage. It's time to put the Christmas decorations up. So you get up and you go out there, and then you come across it, that idea for a product or a business that you had, it's got dust on it, and you that you were so excited about all those months ago. And you pick it up and you look at it, and you have a moment of that, I know I can do something with this. I know I can. But you see, at that point, you have to make a decision. You have to decide, am I going to do this? Am I going to actually turn this into something that's going to change my life, change my legacy, change my family tree, and send me in a different direction than this job that I really don't like? Now, you still have to work the job, getting back to the question, but you have to look at it that way. Is it more work? Yeah. But yeah, guess what? It's become your new part-time job, and you have to show up for work if you don't want to get fired.
Thank you very much. Let me put that same question to Pastor Sanchez. How say you, sir?
Unfortunately, a lot of times in the Christian world, we abuse scriptures and we take them out of context, and we use stuff like, I'm going to walk by faith and not by sight. Well, it was not one of those times. You're also supposed to have wisdom. And so, no, do not leave your job, because if you're just jumping in a job, that means you didn't plan, which means you planned to fail. Because if you planned, you would have realized, I still need to survive. I still have my needs. And unless I'm working, he who does not work does not eat. Right? It wasn't being rude. It's just, you're not supposed to be a sluggard. A key thing that I think is important in all of this is discipline. And anyone that's ever been successful in anything, all of you here are successful. And the key thing as to why you were successful and what you're successful at is because you were disciplined. Whatever it is you did, you were disciplined in that. And what that speaks of, it speaks of your character as a disciple, meaning you could be taught. You were discipled. And if you're teachable, then surround yourself around people who've done something you haven't done yet and learn from them. Don't go to that uncle who never did anything in his life, right? Which what Don was talking about earlier, that one person is going to discourage you. He's like, no, don't do that. It's not going to work. Surround yourself with people who have succeeded in something you want to succeed in, and then learn from them, become their disciple. Let them be your mentor. Let them mentor you, and then be disciplined to do what they're telling you to do, and do it consistently. And like Pastor Jackin was saying, you're going to run into barriers. The most important parable of all the parables, Jesus said, is the parable of the sower. And one of the three soils was talking about the thorns, and there was the cares of this world and the deceit of riches. This was someone who was succeeding, but the cares of this world, the challenges you'll run into, they will challenge you. Are you going to give in to it? Or are you going to say, I don't feel like doing it today? But like Pastor Jacqueline was saying, it's about my money, so I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it. If I want to become this, then I have to follow what my mentor said, and I'm going to do it. Because even Jesus learned obedience, and that's discipline, through the things he suffered. You must learn, and you must change, and you must grow, and be disciplined to do step 1, 2, 3, no matter what.
Pastor Sanchez, real quick, would that be the same for the same principle apply for ministry? Let's say the Lord has called me or calling me into full-time ministry, or to be a preacher, a pastor. Would that same principle apply?
I love that question, Bishop. That is an awesome question. Yes, absolutely. Ephesians 4:11-13 is extremely powerful. So we love to quote it. He gave us apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers for the edifying, exhortation, the building up, for the work of the ministry, right? So we know all that. The reality is this: we have to be mentored. We all have to be mentored. That's why in Galatians, he says that even a son, even though he is the heir and he will be Lord of all things, he is placed under governors and tutors until the appointed time, until he grows up and learns how to rule, how to be a leader. He can't lead, and he's subjected to people whom he will rule over, but he has to be obedient to them people until he learns. And we see that in the natural realm. We look at just natural monarchies, natural kingdoms where there's a king. Their heir will be disciplined and raised up by people, and they have to listen. They get spanked and so forth. And that's the way it is in the ministry as well, Bishop. We have to listen to our leaders. We have to listen to our bishops, our apostles, and so forth, and let them mentor us because, see, here's the thing about it. Every minister out there is trying to work themselves out of a job. Because Ephesians 4:13 says that he gives these ministers so that prepare you for the work of ministry. And then 13 says, until we all come to the unity of the faith, to the knowledge of the Son of God, to the perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. At that point, we're unemployed. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. and so we listened. And here's another reality, Bishop. If you cannot learn from the natural counselors, then you can't learn from the supernatural ones, meaning the seven spirits of God. You can't learn from them because you can't even listen to him whom you see. If you can't listen to him whom you see, you can't listen to him whom you don't see.
My.
Oh, okay. I'll stop at that.
Yeah, that's a message. Thank you, man of God. Okay, we only have 6 minutes left. Let me just put that same question to Pastor Alder. Should I quit my job, woman of God? I got this great idea. Talk to me.
I'm going to be really quick, and I'm going to say, no, you should not quit your job unless you're going on an extended fast and that you can live on somebody's couch and you won't need any resources. If you can say that that is your life for the next 6 months to a year, quit your job. But if you cannot say that you're on this extended fast, then you need to keep your job and stay working. Just become creative with it and make sure that you can set aside some time that you can do what you do. Quickly, I'll tell you that when I was teaching in the high school, I knew it wasn't where my destiny was marked to be. I knew I wasn't making a great difference, a big change there. So what I did is saved up all my sick time, my vacation time and everything. And so I took time off to start my business by using my time that I set aside. So you have to be creative so that you don't go hungry, you don't go homeless and all of that. My answer is no, do not quit your job.
Thank you very, very much. Well, listen, we have heard a lot and we have said a lot. We only have 5 minutes left. And to me, it does not make sense in asking the other question or the other questions because with the people that we do have on board, that's going to be trouble. So what should we really take away from this conversation tonight? We've heard a lot and we have said a lot. Dr. Dolores Ben, what should we take away from this conversation tonight?
First of all, let me start by saying thank you so very much. This thing was a plethora of knowledge and I feel so excited. So I'm going to take away time, money, and wisdom. And I like Jose Sanchez when he talks about discipline. Glory to God. When he speaks about discipline. And Jacqueline, when she speaks about a support team to help me overcome barriers. So that time, that money, that wisdom, and discipline with that support team to help me overcome barriers.
Fantastic. Bishop Neville Wolliston. So what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Very simply, Bishop, change. Change is inevitable.
Thank you, sir. The apostle, man of God, what should we take away from tonight's conversation?
Oh, this was so rich and so awesome. The wisdom, the wealth of wisdom that was on display tonight. I just wish more people had tuned into it. And again, this is a subject that I love. I love creativity, empowerment, being innovative and creative and proactive. That's my alley. So I was just floating. I was in cloud 9. just listening to all the wisdom that was presented here tonight. Really, really powerful.
Beautiful. Pastor Richard McKenzie.
Again, I have to piggyback on what everybody said. Again, thank you all for your wisdom and your knowledge that was shared to us. As we talk about wisdom and knowledge, what I take away is something that Don shared earlier. I had to write it down. Knowledge will tell you a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom will tell you don't put it in a fruit salad. So gain wisdom. Gain wisdom.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Pastor Jacqueline Alder, what should we take away tonight from the conversation?
I'll keep it simple. I think what you should take away from tonight is always make sure that your system is built strong and that you're focused before you get started. Because if you don't have focus and you get started, you're wasting your time. So always stay focused on whatever and wherever you desire to be in whatever you're doing.
Beautiful. Okay, Pastor Sanchez.
I know my thoughts concerning you that I think. So thoughts is plans, thinks is action. And so you have to have a plan. And even God had a plan. He put together a plan. And once he had the plan together, he then spoke it into existence. He took action and did it. And so put together a plan and research that plan. But at some point, you need to put it into action.
Okay, thank you much. Don Skaggs, what should we take away from tonight's conversation, sir?
I think of three things. If I didn't remember three things from tonight, it would be that people are important and wisdom is important and that discipline is very important for inventors and entrepreneurs. Well, for everyone in general, actually. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you much. Well, tonight we want to thank God for weighing in to the Bishop's Corner. We want to thank God for the Dr. Dolores Ben that was on tonight. Bishop Dr. Neville Wolliston, Apostle Lucien Rojas, Pastor Richard McKenzie, and we want to thank God for these three dynamic individuals that came on tonight. Pastor Jacqueline Alder, woman of God, certainly was a pleasure. Thank God for your wisdom. For Pastor Jose Sanchez that came in, man of God, thank you much. Also, Don Skaggs, certainly it's great to have such people with so much wisdom. Listen, this is Bishop Scott saying thank you very, very much for weighing in. And we are looking forward to see you next week, same time on